Maria had always loved the sky. Even as a little girl, she would lie on the grass in her backyard, staring up at the clouds, imagining herself soaring above them. While other kids played games or chased butterflies, Maria spent hours sketching airplanes, drawing them in the clouds she saw in her mind. She dreamed of flying, not just looking at planes, but actually controlling them, feeling the wind against her face, and the roar of engines beneath her hands. Her father, a retired pilot, noticed her fascination early. He often took Maria to small airports, letting her watch him work. "The sky is full of possibilities, Maria," he said one day, pointing to a plane as it climbed into the bright blue sky. "But it's not just about flying. It's about responsibility. One small mistake can affect many people. Remember that." Maria nodded, absorbing every word. While the warning was serious, it didn't dim her dream, it made her more determined. Responsibility, she thought, wasn't a cage, it was a challenge she wanted to meet. As she grew older, Maria's love for planes only increased. She studied them, read every book she could find about aviation, and watched videos of pilots landing planes in difficult conditions. She dreamed of being in the cockpit, but life had placed her in the control tower of a busy regional airport. While she wasn't flying herself, she guided planes safely from above, making sure every takeoff and landing went smoothly. The tower was a small, glass-enclosed building overlooking the airport. Inside, it was busy with instruments, radios, and monitors that tracked every movement on the runway. Maria worked alongside a few colleagues, but she often felt different from them. They were content with routine work, while she constantly imagined the sky beyond the runway. Her friends at the airport, including Lisa and John, were supportive but sometimes teased her about her dreams. "Maria, maybe one day you'll get to fly, but for now, you're the queen of the tower," Lisa said with a smile one morning as they watched a small private plane take off. Maria laughed but secretly felt a pang of frustration. She wanted more than to guide planes safely from a distance. She wanted to feel the vibrations of the aircraft, the control yoke in her hands, the clouds rushing past the window. One particular day, the airport was unusually busy. Multiple flights were scheduled to land and take off within a short period. Maria sat at her console, wearing her headset, eyes scanning the monitors. Every plane had a code, a destination, and a schedule, but to Maria, they were more than numbers. They were stories: people traveling to weddings, families reuniting, students heading home, soldiers returning from training. She spoke calmly over the radio, giving instructions with precision. "Flight 412, you are clear for landing on runway 3. Wind is calm, approach is steady. Maintain speed, and report when you touch down." Her voice was calm, professional, but inside, Maria's heart beat faster than she let anyone see. Every landing felt like a small victory, but also a reminder of what she wasn't doing, what she was waiting for. She wanted to fly, not just guide. After the morning rush, Maria stepped outside the tower for a short break. The sun was warm, and the smell of jet fuel mixed with the fresh air of the airport. She watched a cargo plane taxi down the runway, its engines thundering as it prepared for takeoff. The sight made her stomach flutter. She imagined herself sitting in the cockpit, holding the controls, feeling the power beneath her. "You're staring again," Lisa said, walking up beside her. She had a teasing grin but a tone of concern. "I can't help it," Maria admitted. I want to be up there, you know. Not just watching." Lisa nodded, understanding but cautious. "You're amazing in the tower, Maria. You keep everyone safe. But the sky, it's different. Dangerous sometimes. You have to be ready. Maria smiled faintly. She knew Lisa was right. Flying wasn't just a dream, it required skill, courage, and focus. But she felt ready. She could sense it deep in her bones, even if no one else could see it yet. Later that afternoon, Maria received a call from her supervisor, Mr. Thompson. He was a tall man, with gray streaks in his hair and a voice that carried authority. Maria, I need you to focus. There's an unusual flight coming in C-130 transport. Pilot requested special attention. Be alert. Maria's heart skipped a beat. C-130 planes were large, military-grade transport aircraft. They weren't the usual commercial or small private planes she handled daily. Something about the call stirred a mix of excitement and anxiety in her. This was bigger than her usual routine. She moved to her station, adjusting her headset. Monitors lit up with the incoming plane's information. The pilot's name, Michael, appeared on the screen. Maria had never spoken to him before, but she had heard of his reputation, an experienced pilot with years of flying under his belt. As the plane approached the airport, Maria guided it carefully. Her voice was steady, professional, but her mind was alive with curiosity and focus. She noted the wind speed, cloud cover, and any potential hazards on the runway. Every instruction she gave was calculated, precise, and necessary. Suddenly, a storm began to form on the outskirts of the airport. Rain clouds darkened the sky, and winds picked up. Maria's pulse quickened. She had trained for emergencies, but she knew storms added a layer of danger no one could ignore. Flight C-130, you're clear for landing. Wind is increasing, maintain approach angle. Report any deviations immediately, she instructed calmly, even as her heart raced. The plane responded steadily, but then static crackled over the radio. Michael's voice came through, tense. I can't see clearly. Something's wrong with the instruments. Maria froze for a moment, realizing the gravity of the situation. This was no longer routine. The plane was heavy, the storm growing, and the pilot was struggling. She glanced at her colleagues. Some were watching anxiously, but Maria felt a strange calm take over her. This was the moment she had imagined countless times, not in the tower, but in the cockpit herself. She took a deep breath and prepared to guide Michael with everything she knew. She knew the storm was dangerous. She knew that giving instructions to a pilot of a C-130 in difficult weather was not easy. But Maria also knew she could do it. She had studied, trained, and observed enough to trust her instincts. She wouldn't panic. She couldn't. Michael, she said clearly, focus on my voice. Follow my instructions exactly. You can do this. I'm with you. Her colleagues exchanged nervous glances. The storm grew darker, and rain began pelting the tower windows. But Maria remained calm, her mind entirely on the plane and the pilot. The hours of training, the years of dreaming, all led to this moment. She knew she had to be precise, patient, and confident. Any hesitation could be dangerous. And yet, amidst the fear and the pressure, Maria felt a sense of excitement she had never known before. The plane dipped slightly, then corrected, following her directions. Maria guided it through the storm with careful, measured commands, watching every movement on her monitors. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, communicating with clarity and authority. For the first time, she realized that the tower wasn't just a place of observation. It was a place where she could make a difference, where her skills, knowledge, and courage mattered. She could save lives, even if she wasn't the one flying the plane. But Maria also knew that someday, she wanted more. This was just the beginning. The tower had taught her responsibility, patience, and precision, but the sky was calling her, louder than ever before. And she was determined to answer. The storm had grown stronger by the time the C-130 approached the airport. Rain pelted the runway with a steady, relentless rhythm, and the wind howled like a restless beast. Maria sat in the control tower, her headset pressed firmly to her ears, eyes glued to the monitors. Every plane on the screen seemed small and fragile against the dark, roiling clouds above. Her colleagues whispered among themselves, exchanging worried glances. But Maria remained calm, though her heart raced. This was her moment, the test she had both dreamed of and dreaded. Suddenly, static crackled across the radio. Michael's voice came through, strained and tense. I can't see clearly. Instruments are acting up. I might not make it back safely. The words froze Maria for a split second. She had guided difficult flights before, but she had never faced a situation like this. The C-130 was large, heavy, and difficult to maneuver in good weather, let alone in a storm. The thought of the plane struggling above the runway, hundreds of lives potentially at risk, sent a jolt of urgency through her body. "Michael, stay with me. I can help you," she said, her voice steady but firm. She quickly accessed the emergency procedures on her monitor, scanning for any step that might help the pilot. Every instruction, every calculation mattered. One wrong command, and it could end badly. Her supervisor, Mr. Thompson, leaned over her shoulder. His face was pale, lips pressed tightly together. "Maria, stay in the tower. This is too dangerous. We have other options, don't do anything reckless." Maria shook her head slightly. "There's no time," she replied. "If I don't guide him precisely, the plane might not land safely. I can do this." She returned her focus to the radar screen. The C-130 was slowly approaching the airport, its path slightly off course due to the strong crosswinds. Maria calculated the adjustments needed to align the plane with the runway. Her mind worked quickly, methodically, as if she had been preparing for this moment her whole life. "Michael, you need to adjust slightly to the left," she instructed, her voice calm but firm. "Maintain your altitude. Keep speed steady. I'll guide you step by step." There was a pause, then a reply. "Adjusting, okay. I'm trying." His voice trembled, but there was trust in it. Maria could feel the tension in the tower, in her colleagues, and even in herself. Yet, she refused to panic. She remembered every lesson her father had taught her about flying, about understanding the feel of the plane, the wind currents, and how to anticipate every movement. Even though she wasn't physically in the cockpit, her mind imagined the plane as an extension of herself, responding to her commands. The storm worsened. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the rain in bright, jagged lines. Thunder rolled in the distance, shaking the tower slightly. Maria's fingers moved quickly over her console, giving constant updates and corrections to Michael. "Lower the nose slightly, steady, steady, now turn right gradually. Yes, that's perfect. Hold it there." The C-130 shifted, responding to her instructions. For a moment, Maria allowed herself a small breath of relief. But she knew the most difficult part was still ahead, the landing. Michael spoke again, voice quivering. "I see the runway, but it's barely visible through the storm. I don't know if I can, Michael, listen to me. You can do this. Focus on my voice. Follow each step exactly, Maria said. Her voice carried a calm authority she hadn't realized she possessed. I'll guide you through it. You're not alone. Her colleagues watched in astonishment. Maria, usually quiet and reserved, was now commanding the situation with confidence and clarity. Her years of study, her love for planes, and her dream of flying had all come together in this moment. Maria guided Michael through a series of careful maneuvers, adjusting speed, altitude, and angle of approach. She monitored every detail, from wind speed to runway alignment, giving instructions that were precise and measured. The plane responded, though it swayed and dipped with the storm's force. Time seemed to stretch. Minutes felt like hours as the C-130 descended, the heavy transport plane fighting against the wind and rain. Maria's hands moved quickly but steadily across the console, her mind fully focused on the emergency. She could feel the tension in her body, the adrenaline coursing through her veins, but she refused to let fear take over. Michael, just a little more, hold steady, perfect. You're aligned with the runway. Keep it there, she instructed, her voice a steady anchor in the storm. The plane dipped lower, closer to the ground. Rain splashed across the cockpit windows, and visibility was nearly zero. Maria's heart pounded, but she remained calm. Every instruction mattered. Every moment was critical. Lower landing gear, now, gradually, yes, now slow your descent, steady, Maria's voice guided the pilot, each word precise, each step calculated. She could almost feel the plane responding to her commands, as if it trusted her as much as Michael did. Finally, the wheels touched the wet runway with a heavy thud. The plane skidded slightly on the slick surface, but Maria's instructions kept it under control. She guided Michael to slow down, gradually bringing the massive aircraft to a safe stop. The control tower erupted with cheers and applause. Colleagues rushed to the windows to see the C-130 safely on the ground. Maria removed her headset, hands trembling slightly, not from fear but from the release of tension. She had done it. She had guided the plane safely through the storm. Michael's voice came through the radio again, this time calm but emotional. Maria. I don't know how to thank you. I don't think I could have landed safely without you. Maria smiled faintly, feeling a mix of relief and pride. You did great, Michael. You followed instructions perfectly. That's what made it possible. Her supervisor, Mr. Thompson, finally approached her, eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. Maria. I don't know what to say. You saved that plane. You saved lives. I've never seen anyone handle an emergency like that. Maria shook her head, still processing everything that had happened. I just followed what I knew, she said softly. Lisa and John arrived at the tower, their faces full of amazement. Maria, that was incredible. You guided a C-130 through a storm. You were amazing. Lisa exclaimed, giving her a quick hug. Maria laughed nervously, still feeling the adrenaline. I did what had to be done, she replied. But inside, she felt something change. Something inside her had shifted. She realized that bravery wasn't about being fearless, it was about acting when it mattered most, even when fear was present. After the emergency, the airport slowly returned to normal. Flights resumed, and the storm began to calm. Maria sat back in her chair, exhausted but fulfilled. She knew this was a moment she would never forget. She also knew something else. This experience had shown her that she was capable of more than anyone, including herself, had imagined. The tower had been her home for years, a place of safety and observation. But now, she knew she could rise to challenges she had only dreamed of facing. That night, after the airport quieted down, Maria stepped outside once more. The rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and clean. She looked up at the stars, visible through the clearing clouds, and felt a deep sense of connection. The sky wasn't just a place she watched from below, it was a world she could be part of. Her mind replayed the events of the day. Every decision, every instruction, every moment of calm in the midst of chaos had mattered. She realized that the tower was not the limit, it was a starting point. She had guided a plane through impossible conditions, and she had survived, grown, and learned. Maria smiled to herself. The dream of flying, which had always seemed distant and almost impossible, now felt closer than ever. She knew that someday, she would be in the cockpit herself, feeling the engines beneath her, guiding the plane through skies wide and free. But for now, she had proven something just as important, that courage, knowledge, and determination could make a difference, even from the tower. That night, Maria went home, still thinking about the day's events. She felt exhausted, but also exhilarated. She had faced a real emergency, saved lives, and discovered the depths of her own courage. She realized that dreams weren't just about fantasy, they were about stepping up when it mattered most, about taking responsibility, and about believing in oneself even when others doubted. And as she drifted to sleep, Maria knew one thing with certainty: this was only the beginning of her journey. The tower had taught her responsibility, the storm had taught her courage, and the sky was calling her, louder than ever before. The morning after the storm, the airport was quiet, almost eerily so. The usual hum of engines and chatter of passengers was muted, as if the world itself had paused to reflect on the previous day's events. Maria arrived early, as usual, walking up the steps to the control tower. She felt a mix of pride and nervousness. Pride for what she had accomplished, but nervousness because she knew the events of yesterday would change everything. Her colleagues greeted her with cautious smiles. Some whispered about the heroic guidance she had given Michael during the storm, while others avoided looking at her directly, unsure how to react. Maria simply nodded and went to her station. She wasn't looking for attention, but she could feel the eyes on her. She knew people were talking. Lisa came over first, her face bright but serious. "Maria, last night. I don't know what to say. You were incredible. No one else could have done what you did." Maria shook her head. "I didn't do it alone. Michael followed my instructions perfectly. We both did it together." Lisa smiled, but her expression was thoughtful. "Still, you stayed calm when everyone else was panicking. That's not normal. That's courage." Maria felt a small blush on her cheeks. She wasn't sure she was brave. She had done what needed to be done. That was all. But the word courage lingered in her mind. Maybe it wasn't about fearlessness, she thought. Maybe it was about acting even when fear was present. The day began as usual, with routine flights taking off and landing. But the memory of the storm hung in Maria's mind like a shadow, a reminder of what she had faced and what she might face again. She watched planes glide across the sky, imagining herself in the cockpit, feeling the engines vibrate under her hands, and guiding the plane through clouds and wind. Suddenly, her radio crackled to life. It was Michael. "Maria? Are you there?" "Yes, Michael. How are you? Maria replied, her voice steady. I wanted to thank you again. I still can't believe we made it down safely. I've flown for years, but I've never faced anything like that. Maria smiled faintly. You did it? You stayed focused and trusted the instructions. That's what made it possible. Michael hesitated. Maria, I think you have the skill to do more than guide from the tower. Have you ever thought about flying yourself? Maria's heart skipped a beat. She had thought about it every day of her life, but no one had ever asked her that question seriously. Yes. I've always dreamed of it, she admitted softly. There was a pause on the radio. Then Michael's voice returned, gentle but firm. You should pursue it. You're more capable than you realize. Maria sat back in her chair, her mind spinning. Could she really do it? She had guided a massive C-130 through a storm, saved lives, and remained calm under pressure. Maybe she could fly herself. The thought filled her with both excitement and fear. But more than anything, it filled her with determination. Later that day, her supervisor, Mr. Thompson, called her into his office. His face was serious, but there was a hint of pride in his eyes. Maria, yesterday was extraordinary. You handled an emergency that could have ended in disaster. I need to know, are you sure you want to stay in the tower? Or do you want to explore flying? Maria took a deep breath. I want to fly. I've always wanted to fly. Guiding planes is important, but I want more. Mr. Thompson nodded slowly. It's a big responsibility. Flying isn't easy, and it's not without risk. But I can see your dedication, your calm under pressure, and your knowledge. I think you have what it takes. The conversation left Maria both thrilled and anxious. She realized that pursuing her dream would be a challenge unlike anything she had faced before. But she also knew that she couldn't ignore the call of the sky. Her heart was set. Over the next few weeks, Maria began training more seriously. She read books on aircraft mechanics, studied flight manuals, and practiced simulations whenever she could. She spent hours at the tower, watching planes take off and land, imagining herself at the controls, feeling every vibration and movement. Every flight she guided became a lesson, every decision a practice for what might come when she finally got her chance. Her colleagues noticed the change in her. Maria moved with a new confidence, her instructions precise, her presence calm and reassuring. Even seasoned pilots started to respect her judgment. Some asked for her advice on landing approaches, while others watched quietly, acknowledging her growing expertise. One afternoon, Lisa came to the tower, carrying a cup of coffee. Maria, I think you're ready, she said softly, handing over the cup. Maria frowned slightly. Ready? Ready for what? Lisa smiled knowingly. Ready to take the next step. You've proven yourself with the C-130, you've studied, practiced, and stayed calm under pressure. You have the skill and the courage. You just need to believe it yourself. Maria took a sip of coffee, staring out at the runway. She thought about the storm, the plane, Michael's trust, and her own determination. Slowly, she realized Lisa was right. She was ready. That evening, Maria went home but couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed the events of the past weeks, the storm, the landing, the hours in the tower, and the dreams she had carried since childhood. She thought about the responsibility of flying, the lives she could impact, and the challenge of mastering the sky. Fear and excitement swirled together, but beneath it all was a sense of purpose she had never felt so clearly. The next morning, Maria arrived at the airport before sunrise. The air was crisp, and the first rays of light painted the clouds in gold and pink. She felt a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. Today, she would take a step closer to her dream. Mr. Thompson was waiting for her at the control tower. "Maria, today we have a small training flight scheduled. You'll get a chance to sit in the cockpit with an instructor, under supervision. It's the first real step toward flying yourself." Maria's heart leapt. I can't believe it. Thank you for this opportunity." "You earned it," Mr. Thompson replied. "Remember, flying requires focus, patience, and calm under pressure. Trust your instincts and your training." Maria nodded, feeling both nervous and excited. She followed the instructor to the small training plane, a light aircraft designed for beginners. It wasn't a C-130, but for Maria, it was the first tangible step toward the sky she had always dreamed of. As she climbed into the cockpit, she felt a thrill unlike anything before. The controls were within reach, the instruments lit up, and the smell of fuel mixed with the crisp morning air. Maria's fingers brushed over the controls, feeling the weight of responsibility and possibility. The instructor smiled. "Are you ready?" Maria nodded. "Yes. Let's do this." The plane taxied to the runway, engines roaring, wings slicing through the air. Maria felt her heart race as the plane lifted off the ground. The sensation was electric, freeing, and terrifying all at once. She followed the instructor's instructions, guiding the plane gently, learning how it responded to every movement, every adjustment. Minutes passed like hours, but Maria remained focused. She practiced turns, climbs, and descents, feeling the plane respond under her hands. Every action was a lesson, every adjustment a step closer to mastery. She realized that the tower had prepared her in ways she hadn't understood before. Her experience guiding planes, observing patterns, and making split-second decisions had given her an edge. When the flight ended, Maria returned to the control tower, heart still racing but filled with a sense of accomplishment. She knew she had taken the first step toward her dream. Flying wasn't just a fantasy, it was becoming real. Back in the tower, Maria looked out at the horizon. The sky stretched endlessly, full of possibility. She thought about the C-130, the storm, Michael's trust, and her own courage. She realized that the journey ahead would be long, filled with challenges, learning, and responsibility. But she also knew she was ready. That evening, as the sun set, Maria reflected on the lessons of the past weeks. Courage wasn't about fearlessness, it was about acting despite fear. Dreams weren't just wishes, they were goals that required preparation, determination, and belief in oneself. And the sky was waiting for her. Maria smiled softly. She had faced the storm, guided a plane to safety, and taken the first steps toward flying herself. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was hers to follow. And for the first time, she felt the sky calling her not as a distant dream, but as a future she was ready to claim. Maria's training had been progressing well, but nothing could truly prepare her for what came next. Weeks after her first flight in the small training plane, the airport faced an unusual challenge. A transport plane, a C-130, similar to the one she had guided through the storm, reported serious mechanical problems while in the air. The pilot, Michael, called the tower with concern, explaining that the engines were not responding properly and that the plane might not reach the runway safely. The news sent a wave of tension through the control tower. This was exactly the kind of situation Maria had been imagining for years, but now it was real, and she was being tested in ways she had never experienced before. Mr. Thompson's voice came over the radio, firm and urgent. "Maria, you stay in the tower and assist Michael. He's experienced, but he needs guidance. Remember your training." Maria nodded, gripping the edge of her console. Her heart pounded, but her mind was sharp. She had prepared for this moment, studied emergency procedures, and learned to stay calm under pressure. Now, all of it would be put to the test. "Michael, can you hear me?" Maria asked. "Yes, Maria. I'm trying to stabilize the plane, but it's difficult," he replied. His voice sounded strained, the fear clear despite his professional tone. "Take it step by step. Focus on my instructions. We'll get through this," Maria said, her voice calm and confident. The storm had passed, but the weather was still challenging. Gusts of wind swept across the runway, making it harder for the plane to maintain a steady course. Rain puddles reflected the runway lights, creating a blur of brightness that made judgment more difficult. Maria's fingers moved quickly across her console as she gave Michael precise instructions. "Adjust your speed slightly. Reduce altitude gradually. Keep the wings level. Good, good. Now, a small correction to the left." "Yes, perfect," she said, her tone calm but insistent. Michael followed her instructions, and the plane responded, though it still struggled against the wind. Maria could feel the tension in the tower, the collective anxiety of her colleagues pressing down, but she refused to let it distract her. Every second mattered. Every instruction mattered. Suddenly, a new challenge appeared. One of the engines sputtered, sending a sharp vibration through the plane. Michael's voice cracked with concern. "Maria, I think one engine is failing completely." Maria's stomach tightened. A full engine failure in a plane this size was dangerous, but she refused to panic. She quickly accessed the emergency procedures and calculated the adjustments Michael would need to maintain control. "Stay calm, Michael. Use the remaining engines to stabilize. Adjust your weight distribution and maintain the approach angle. You can do this. Trust me," she said firmly. The plane responded slowly, but steadily. Maria's hands flew over her console, monitoring every detail: speed, altitude, wind direction, and angle of approach. She gave constant instructions, small corrections that would keep the plane on track. She had learned to trust her instincts, and now those instincts were guiding a massive aircraft toward safety. Her colleagues watched in awe. Lisa whispered, "I can't believe how calm she is. If anyone can handle this, it's Maria." Time seemed to stretch as the plane descended, closer and closer to the runway. Maria's voice never wavered, even as her heart raced. She gave each instruction with clarity, breaking down the complex task into simple, manageable steps for Michael. "Lower landing gear slowly, yes, maintain alignment, small adjustments to the left, perfect. Keep it steady," she instructed, her eyes glued to the monitors. Michael followed her guidance perfectly, his trust in her complete. The plane began its final descent, skimming over the wet runway. Maria's mind raced with calculations, imagining the forces acting on the plane and predicting how it would respond to every adjustment. She guided Michael through the landing like a conductor guiding a symphony, each movement precise and intentional. The C-130 touched down with a heavy thud, the runway slick and wet beneath it. The plane skidded slightly, but Maria's instructions kept it on course. She guided Michael as he applied the brakes gradually, bringing the massive aircraft to a safe stop. The control tower erupted in relief and applause. Colleagues rushed to the windows to see the plane safely on the ground. Maria removed her headset, her hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline and exhaustion. She had done it again. Michael's voice came through the radio, filled with gratitude and amazement. "Maria, you saved us. I don't know how I could have done it without you. Your guidance, it was perfect." Maria smiled faintly. "You did amazing, Michael. We did it together." Mr. Thompson approached her, his face full of pride. "Maria, I can't believe it. You've handled emergencies that could have overwhelmed even the most experienced pilots. You've proven yourself beyond doubt." Maria felt a mix of pride and humility. She had faced fear, pressure, and real danger, and she had emerged stronger. But she also realized that this experience had taught her something new. Courage was not a single act. It was persistence, focus, and the willingness to act even when the odds were against you. After the emergency, Maria returned to her desk, trying to process everything. Her colleagues gave her quiet congratulations, their faces reflecting admiration and respect. She felt different somehow, as if she had crossed a threshold and become someone capable of more than she had imagined. The events of the day spread quickly through the airport community. Pilots, ground crew, and staff spoke in hushed tones about Maria's calm and decisive actions. Even those who had doubted her abilities were forced to recognize her skill and courage. That evening, Maria sat in the control tower alone, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. The calm after the storm felt symbolic, a reminder that challenges could pass and that one could emerge stronger from adversity. She thought about her dream of flying herself, of sitting in the cockpit and controlling the plane directly. The idea no longer felt distant or impossible. She had guided a massive C-130 through a dangerous storm and a mechanical failure, proving to herself and everyone else that she could handle extraordinary situations. Maria realized that the sky was not a limit, it was a challenge waiting to be met. She had learned to trust herself, to trust her instincts, and to act with clarity and courage. The lessons she had learned in the tower, guiding planes safely, had prepared her for the moment when she would finally take control herself. Later that night, Maria received a call from Michael. "Maria, I've been thinking, you have the skills, the calm, and the courage to fly a plane yourself. You shouldn't just guide from the tower forever. The sky needs pilots like you." Maria smiled softly. "I know. And I want to. It's time for me to take the next step." She hung up the phone, feeling a mix of excitement and determination. The journey ahead would be challenging. Flying a plane required skill, training, and focus. But Maria had learned that challenges were meant to be faced, and fear was only a signal to act wisely and courageously. The next morning, Maria arrived at the airport early, ready to continue her training. She was determined to push herself further, to learn more, and to prepare for the moment when she would finally sit in the cockpit of a C-130 herself. She reviewed her notes, studied flight manuals, and practiced emergency procedures repeatedly. Each day brought her closer to her goal. Her colleagues watched her with admiration. Lisa came by, smiling. "Maria, you've changed. You're calm, confident, and focused. I think you're ready for anything." Maria nodded. "I hope so. There's still so much to learn, but I'm ready to face it." As the day progressed, Maria guided smaller planes through routine takeoffs and landings, her experience with the C-130 emergencies making her more precise and confident. She noticed details others might miss: the subtle shift of the wind, the way a plane responded to a slight adjustment, the behavior of instruments under pressure. Every moment in the tower became a lesson, every flight a step toward mastery. By evening, Maria reflected on the week. She had faced real emergencies, guided massive planes through dangerous conditions, and proven her courage and skill. But she also knew this was just the beginning. Flying a plane herself was the next challenge, a test of everything she had learned and more. Maria looked out at the horizon as the sun set. The sky stretched endlessly above, full of possibility. She felt a deep connection to it, a sense of purpose she had never known before. The tower had taught her responsibility, the emergencies had taught her courage, and now the sky was calling her to take flight. For the first time, Maria understood that bravery was not about avoiding danger, it was about facing it, guiding others, and taking responsibility when it mattered most. She smiled softly, feeling the thrill of anticipation. The next chapter of her journey was waiting, and she was ready. The morning sun rose over the airport, painting the runway in shades of gold. Maria arrived early, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves. Today was the day she had dreamed of for years, the day she would step into the cockpit herself, not just guide planes from the tower. Weeks of preparation, training, and guidance had led to this moment. Every emergency she had faced, every storm she had guided planes through, and every lesson she had learned in the tower had built toward this opportunity. The C-130 awaited her on the tarmac, a massive silhouette against the morning light, engines humming softly, waiting to be commanded. Mr. Thompson met her at the gate, his expression serious but proud. "Maria, today is the culmination of everything you've worked for. The plane, the instructor, the support crew, they're all here to help you succeed. But remember, the sky is demanding. Stay focused, trust your training, and stay calm under pressure." Maria nodded, her lips pressed together in concentration. "I understand. I'm ready." The instructor, Captain Reynolds, a veteran pilot with years of experience flying heavy aircraft, approached with a reassuring smile. "Maria, you've trained well. Today, I'll guide you, but you'll take the controls. This is your chance to feel what it's like to fly the plane yourself." Maria climbed into the cockpit, the control yoke massive under her hands. The instruments blinked and hummed, and the smell of fuel mixed with the crisp morning air. She felt a shiver of anticipation. This was real. The plane was real. The controls were real. Captain Reynolds gave her a final nod. "Ready for takeoff?" Maria took a deep breath. Yes. The engines roared to life, vibrating through the fuselage, and Maria felt the power of the plane under her hands. The massive aircraft began to taxi toward the runway. Her mind was clear, focused on every detail. She felt the runway beneath the wheels, the wind brushing past, and the potential of flight waiting for her. "Steady, maintain alignment, throttle forward slowly," Reynolds instructed. Maria followed each command precisely, feeling the plane respond. As the plane accelerated, Maria felt the familiar thrill she had imagined countless times. The runway blurred beneath her, and then, with a gentle lift, the C-130 rose into the sky. She felt weightless for a moment, suspended between the earth and the clouds, experiencing the freedom she had dreamed of since childhood. "Climb steadily, maintain heading," Reynolds continued. Maria guided the plane with confidence, adjusting speed and altitude. She felt the plane respond like an extension of her own body, every movement precise, controlled, and purposeful. Hours of training and observation paid off. Maria remembered every lesson, how to read the instruments, how to adjust for wind, how to anticipate changes in altitude, and how to remain calm under pressure. Each instruction she gave herself or followed from Reynolds reinforced her confidence. Suddenly, the radio crackled with a message from the tower. "Maria, we've received reports of a small mechanical issue in your left engine. Standard procedure suggests immediate evaluation and caution." Maria's heart skipped a beat. The familiar anxiety of facing danger pressed against her chest, but she remembered the storm, the C-130 emergencies she had guided before. She drew a deep breath and steadied herself. "Understood," she replied calmly. "Let's run diagnostics and maintain stable flight." Reynolds nodded. "You're handling this well. Stay focused." Maria followed the procedures, checking the engine, adjusting the throttle, and calculating speed and altitude. She realized that experience was more than knowledge, it was the ability to act calmly and decisively when every second mattered. The left engine stabilized after a few tense minutes. Maria felt a wave of relief, but she didn't let it distract her. She knew the hardest part was still ahead, landing the C-130. "Prepare for descent," Reynolds instructed. "We'll approach the runway slowly. Follow my guidance and stay steady." Maria adjusted the controls, carefully lowering the plane. The ground approached gradually, and she felt the plane respond to every movement. She visualized the runway in her mind, remembering the hundreds of times she had guided planes from the tower, imagining their descent perfectly. Now she was part of that process herself. "Steady, a little left, maintain alignment, reduce speed gradually, good, good," Reynolds coached. Maria followed each command precisely, her hands and mind fully in sync with the massive aircraft. The runway grew closer, and Maria's pulse quickened. The plane's weight pressed down, and she could feel the vibrations as the engines adjusted. She guided the plane with careful corrections, anticipating every movement and adjusting smoothly. "Lower landing gear," Reynolds said. Maria followed, hearing the familiar thud as the gear locked into place. The plane was ready to touch down. "Steady, maintain approach, you've got this, Maria," Reynolds encouraged. The runway blurred beneath her, and with a controlled descent, the C-130's wheels touched the wet surface. The plane skidded slightly, but Maria's precise instructions kept it on course. She applied the brakes gradually, feeling the massive aircraft slow, its weight and momentum obeying her careful commands. "Brake gently, maintain control, perfect," Reynolds said, his tone filled with pride. The plane came to a complete stop, engines humming softly as Maria released the controls. She exhaled, feeling a mix of relief, triumph, and pure joy. She had done it. She had taken control, faced the challenges of the C-130, and landed safely. The control tower erupted in cheers. Lisa and John waved from the windows, clapping and shouting congratulations. Even Mr. Thompson, usually reserved, had a broad smile on his face. Maria removed her headset, her hands trembling slightly from adrenaline and exhaustion. She had not only flown the plane, she had mastered it, at least for this flight. Every lesson, every hour in the tower, every emergency she had guided had prepared her for this moment. Michael's voice came through the radio, filled with awe. "Maria, you did it. You actually did it. I can't believe it. You landed a C-130 yourself." Maria smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "It wasn't just me. I had guidance, experience, and training. But, thank you. It feels amazing." Reynolds patted her shoulder. "Maria, you've proven yourself today. You've shown skill, courage, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. You're a natural pilot. Maria's mind reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From a little girl dreaming under the clouds, to a girl in the tower guiding planes, to today she had grown, learned, and faced every challenge. Her courage, persistence, and determination had brought her to this moment of triumph. That evening, after the plane was secured, Maria returned to the control tower. She looked out over the airport, now quiet in the fading light. The sky stretched endlessly above, full of possibility. She thought about all she had learned: responsibility, courage, focus, and determination. She realized that her journey was only beginning. The sky was no longer just a dream, it was a path she could follow, challenge by challenge, flight by flight. Lisa came to her side, smiling. "Maria, you did it. You really did it. I always knew you could." Maria smiled back, feeling warmth and pride. "It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I've learned that courage isn't just about being fearless. It's about acting when it matters most." Mr. Thompson appeared behind them. "Maria, you've not only proven your skill, but you've inspired everyone here. You've shown that determination, knowledge, and calm under pressure can accomplish what many would think impossible. I'm proud of you." Maria felt a swell of emotion. She had dreamed of flying for years, but now, after guiding planes through emergencies and landing a massive aircraft herself, she understood something deeper. Dreams were about preparation, courage, and persistence. They were about stepping up when the moment demanded it, and believing in oneself even when others doubted. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Maria realized that the journey ahead was full of endless possibilities. She had faced storms, emergencies, and fear, and emerged stronger each time. The sky was calling, and she was ready to answer. For the first time in her life, Maria felt completely free. Not just because she had flown a C-130, but because she had discovered her own courage and ability to rise to any challenge. The tower, the storms, and the planes had all taught her lessons she would carry forever. Maria smiled to herself, feeling a deep sense of peace. She had faced her fears, trusted her skills, and soared above limits she had once thought unbreakable. The future awaited, full of skies to explore and challenges to conquer. And Maria was ready. With one last look at the runway, she whispered softly, "This is only the beginning." The sky stretched endlessly above her, and Maria knew, without a doubt, that she belonged there.